We often get the question of, should I invest in gold? Gold seems to really hold its value and it seems to do really well in high inflationary times. So let's see if we would have invested in gold, what would happen. So this Callan chart, it's a fun one. We actually were doing a workshop one time and a guy was there in the crowd and he was a really sharp guy, really analytical, was a fun guy to be around. And we showed this chart and his eyes lit up and he was just so fascinated by this chart. I mean, he did not stop talking about it. It was a 2-night college class. It was three hours each night is what we did for those folks at that class. And we showed this like in the first 30 minutes of the class. Every single break, he ran up to us and said, go to the Callan chart. I want to ask a few questions there. He did that every time. And then he actually came in and met with us after the workshop. And he's like, I need you to, when I come in, I need you to print that off for me because I'm hanging that up. That's just the coolest chart I've seen. I've seen all these investment charts, but this one's the best one I've seen, is what he kept telling us there. So, and he's actually a client of ours now, and he still always jokes around about the Callan chart and always brings it up just about every time we get together with him. So it definitely is a powerful chart. I love it. It's pretty, it's a good picture to see of why we cannot pick particular investments and time the market is basically the idea of it. So when you look at this chart, you may be a little overwhelmed at first, but this is showing over the last 20 years what have been the best and worst assets to own. And so let's go back to, for example, 2003. So in 2003, the best investment was small to medium-sized companies. So companies that are smaller to medium-sized did 45% that year, pretty well. The worst investment to have was cash because the market was pretty high that year. And so cash you got about a 1% return on. Bonds did about 4%. You get the idea. So what's neat about this chart is each of these are color coded. And so if you go to 2004, you'll see like large cap value, for example, it did 30%. In 2004, it did 16. You'll see it's indicated by that color. So if we really want to see, I'll pick a color it's easy to understand, like red. Like if we want to see how well international has done over the last 20 years, let's just follow the red. Well, during these 4 years, 5 years, did incredible, right? Well, and then it dropped 43%. Well, next year it jumped up 31. And then you can see, over this stretch, it's been, pretty low for that stretch. And then you can kind of see it's been all over the place, right? And then over time, even though it started out the 4 of the highest, well, it's only been about 6.43, and it's about middle of the pack compared to these other assets here. So pretty interesting, right? And so if we go to the annualized return here shows the best performing assets over the last 10 years. So large cap growth has definitely, been great over the last, 20 years. That's why a lot of people love the S&P 500 right now, is because it's done so well in recent times. So, is that going to continue? Well, no one knows, right? But, may not want to put everything in large cap growth just because it's done well in the past. No one knows what the future is. But it is probably smart to have, some ownership of some large cap growth, especially when you expect that, large companies are probably going to be doing pretty well over time, right? So that's the concept there. But anyways, you'll see cash is the lowest, and you look at it from a risk-return standpoint, right? The more risk you take, the more return you typically get. Well, you're not taking any risk with cash. You're actually, not really seeing much return there because of that. So you got to take some risk to get some return there. So we often get the question, like I started off the video, of should we invest in gold? Now, I'll tell you that we own gold in some of our portfolios throughout time. When the time is right, when we see opportunistic times, it can be a good time to invest in gold. But what we typically tell people is you don't want to put all your assets in one place. Never put all your eggs in one place. We want to have a diversified portfolio. So even if we do invest in gold, it's not going to be a significant amount of what we have because we want to own all of these different types of assets that you're seeing on the board here based on when we need our money. And so especially if you're not going to need your money for a longer period of time, well, gold may not make the most sense because gold is actually one of the least performing assets with cash at 1.37% over the last 20 years, commodities, which is basically gold. So that's the purple there. And if you see it, it's among the bottom of this chart here for many of the years. Now, it has done pretty well in specific years, right? And that's why people like it because it gets a lot of buzz in those specific years when it does well. 2022 is up 16%, right? High inflationary times, it typically does well. 2021, it did well. It did as good as well. So, but even with those 2 great years and the 2 great years here, you're still looking at the lowest performing asset. So my point here is we've got to think long term. So gold could have been a great investment to own the last 2 years, right? If you're in gold, then great job. But is it going to be like that over the next 20 years? And typically, gold just is not going to be a higher appreciated asset over time. It is just what we'd expect. So that's the idea of, should you own everything? Should you own gold, everything? Should we move everything to gold? Doomsday's coming. Okay, well, anything can happen anytime. No one knows, but let's be more realistic there, and let's be smarter about how we invest our money is typically how we advise. So hopefully you enjoy this chart. Press pause, and you can kind of play around with this chart and look around and see what's done well and what hasn't. Obviously, you'll see here diversified portfolio at 7.15%. That's typically what we recommend, because as you see the black, it's pretty middle of the road, right? And so it's a way to not take a ton of risk while getting a pretty stable return is what we would hope with that type of portfolio. So that's the idea there, is that if you're just diversified, you'll get the best of the best, you'll get the worst of the worst, but it's going to even out, and you're going to have more of that stable ride. Versus if you say, hey, I'm going to try to just own 100% in large cap growth, well, okay, great, it could do 10.76% over 20 years, which is, you won, but look how many ups and downs you're seeing in this type of color, right? This past year is down 29%. And so how are you feeling then? When you look at large cap value, is only down 7%. So just keep that in mind as you invest for the future. So again, I want to bring this home. As we invest, we want to think about the time horizon. The longer time horizon we have, the more we want to seek growth. The less time horizon we have, the more conservative we want to start getting with a portion of our assets. So fun chart here. Go ahead and print it out, hang it on your refrigerator, and you'll think about me next time you see this chart here. And by the way, they call it a Callan chart, is what this is called. So have some fun with this one today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks to all the followers, and go ahead and subscribe, invite others to subscribe, and we'll keep the videos rolling here. Have a great day.